Thank you for joining us on another episode of For Couples Only.
Today we have with us Father Antonios Macarius, very reverend father from St. Mary and St. Antonios Church in Queens, New York, and also a holder of a master's degree in counseling. Thank you for being with us today, Abuna.
Thanks for having me.
And as you know, I'm very blessed to be sitting next to my wife, Sarah, and my name is Chris. Let's get right into this episode. We're going to take a 2-minute break and watch this clip, and then we'll discuss it.
Hey, honey. How are you?
I have a question for you.
Yeah?
Why did you tell my mom you're not so sure if we're going to be able to make it for Christmas this year?
Because we can't make it. We probably can't make it, honey.
And why can't we make it?
You know, I got a new job and...
Oh my gosh, this is about the presents, isn't it?
I mean, well, kind of, honey. I mean, you're talking about 8 gifts and, you know...
No.
your family's-
It's not about 8's gift. It's about the fact that you just don't like my family. You don't want to go because you don't like my family.
No, not at all, honey. I love your family. In fact, to be honest with you, I call your dad like once a week and I chat with him.
Yeah,
I
you know why you call my dad? You call my dad because you want to make sure that he knows all our problems, he can have some pity, and maybe he can help us out with some money, right?
No, not at all, honey. I call your dad because, look, your dad's a businessman, I'm a businessman. I'm just, you know, I get some advice from him. And to be honest, I mean, I never discuss with him anything about money or problems or anything.
Okay, so then you know what? If it's not about my dad, then it's about my sister and her husband, right? You just don't like them. You don't want to go because you don't like my sister and her husband. You don't want to spend Christmas with them. You just admit it. Just say the truth and admit it.
Wrong, honey. I don't know where you're getting this from. No, look, I love your family. We can't go because we got to take flights to Florida. We got to buy gifts. It's going to cost us over $3,000 just for a few days. We can't afford that right now.
That's just a convenient excuse, isn't it?
It's not an excuse, honey. It's reality.
You know, just excuses. Just admit it. Just admit the truth.
Admit what, honey? I told you. Look, life would be so much simpler if you could just stop reading between the lines, stop misinterpreting things. It's very simple.
And I won't misinterpret things and I won't read between the lines if you're just honest and truthful. Just say the truth. You don't like my family. It's very simple.
Honey, how much more honest and clear can I be? I love your family, but we just can't go because I can't afford it. Just can't be any clearer than that.
You know, you just don't want to admit it. You're not gonna ever be honest with me. Whatever. I'm out of here. I'll whatever.
Honey, I don't understand.
All right. So, I don't even know where to start. Abuna?
I think we need to summarize what we just watched now. It's very interesting because there has been something that's going on that the wife just found about it, not from her husband, but from her mother.
Abuna, from looking at this video, the husband was very open and very, transparent with his wife, but it seemed like she already had her mind made, and she was upset with him, and she knew that his opinion about the matter already.
Yeah, I agree with you, but from whom did she know his opinion about the matter? That's very important. What we watched implies the fact that the husband did not discuss the issue of the Christmas vacation with his wife beforehand, because she was taken by surprise that when she was calling her mom told her that you're not going to be coming to us and spend Christmas vacation with us. So here comes the point of miscommunication first. I would say he should have first talked to his wife about, let us talk about the situation that we have. I just got a new job. I don't think I'll be able to take vacation. Expenses will be very high. And what do you think? I know that we want to see your family, and I would love to be with your family and spend Christmas with them, but because of what we're having now, our situation, he did not do that in the beginning, which miscommunication led to some kind of misinformation, and the misinformation led to the misinterpretation of the whole situation.
Oh,
That
I mean, a lot of Asians in your sentence. Sorry, but yeah. But I know, Sarah, you must have a lot of questions. But I understand the view of the husband here, because it seemed like he was trying to, and I bring this point up again. Like, he was very open. He was like, "This is exactly why." This is another reason why. Like, he wasn't trying to hide it. And I feel like the wife, if she was without her mind being made up already, if she were to listen to what her husband was saying with a receptive mind and heart, she would have been like, "Oh, okay, let's talk about it." But she was on a attack mode. And he's just like, "Wait, honey.
why do you think that she was in that state of mind?
Well, I mean, one, we just got to say this for the record. It's very common amongst the genetic makeup of the gender of the female. And I'm just kidding. It's not a female thing. No. I'm just kidding. No, I just think maybe she had another issue in her mind. But there was another issue besides what was being discussed. Definitely.
That's what I'm trying to say. The other issue is that she was not considered in the very beginning, before what happened, okay, that she got this information not directly from him, or that the issue was not discussed between him and her first, and then they make a decision, they decide on what they're going to do, and then they will inform her family. It worked the other way around. And that's the miscommunication part, which led her to be so angry. I think the anger that she had is related to the fact that she was never told about all these things. So when she got angry, she started to make assumptions, and one thing led to the other, led to this confrontation, the way we just watched it.
What causes a conversation to go in that direction? Like, I mean,
besides genetics, of course.
Please. There's no such thing as genetic, please.
Just kidding. This is,
no, but I mean, really, I mean, is it anger? Is it just like a lack of love from a spouse? Is it hatred? Like, I don't know. What is it? What causes a conversation to get to that boiling point so rapidly? And how can you avoid it? I mean, within the context of misinterpretation, of course.
She mentioned something at the very end about honesty and truthfulness, something like that, which means that she felt there is a lack of trust. And I think at the time this situation was happening, because she was so angry, she couldn't hear what he was saying. That was one big reason. That's why we always ask people to not to jump to conclusions until they find out what happened. Why did you say that? Why did you decide on that? And maybe she should have asked him also, why didn't you discuss this with me first, before coming up with this full decision that we are not going to go and spend the vacation with my family. And this is a matter that concerns me. You cannot take me out of the picture and decide on your own. So all these things, I think all these factors made her start to think, oh, okay, so he decided not to go and spend Christmas with my family, then he must, the only reason could be that he doesn't love my family.
Bruno, you bring up a point that I'm really glad you brought up, that she assumed his, like, she didn't bother asking him why you didn't ask me first. But again, from this scenario, and, you know, obviously we don't know what's happening before or what their history is, but just from this conversation, I mean, he said to his wife, I even speak to your dad on a weekly basis, and we don't talk about anything, we talk about good things. So it gives me the impression that he didn't proactively seek out to call the mother. Most likely, I don't know, but just from the tone on he was very defensive. It seems like more likely that the mom might have reached out to see what happened, or whatever the case may be, that he had to make a decision without having that formal conversation and, you know, sitting down and confronting her feelings. But it seemed like, you know, I don't know, it seemed like she has this, there's something in her mind that even if she knew this, I feel like she could have reacted in a similar way.
Actually, it was kind of clueless, because she thought he's talking to his dad, to her dad, because he had some other intention other than just talking about business and getting his advice. So he explained that. So she wanted to justify her assumption by saying, oh, so it must be my sister and her husband or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So she wanted to make what she thought effect.
All of the different
She wanted to justify
points, yeah.
And he kept trying to prove to her that this is not the case. He was very calm, he was very decent, very kind, and he could have saved himself all this.
Oh.
From the very beginning, if this matter was discussed beforehand and before it reaches that boiling point where the wife came to, because of the miscommunication, misinformation and misinterpretation, she came to understand it on a completely different level and started to accuse him of not loving his family.
For me, like this situation, I mean, I don't know. It seems like there's more to it than just, from my perspective, than the fact that he didn't say, to tell her earlier, because she was picking out many different possible reasons, like, oh, it could be this, it could be that. It seemed like she had a lot of, or like a lack of like she wasn't self-aware, or like she wasn't confident in her relationship, so that she was making up excuses. I mean, he could have, maybe he should have said it, but she wouldn't be, like, she was making up many other reasons.
Actually, he tried to explain it on many different levels and give very good reasons. But sometimes when you're angry, you don't get the message, you don't listen. Right. So if we want to talk about the misinterpretation that took place, I might say, if we need to deal with the situation, maybe we'll ask the person who jumps to the conclusion that calm down and try to ask questions to find out what happened. Why did you decide this? Use the logic and the reason before you lose your temper and you start to make a big story in your mind that does not exist in reality. And then keep throwing accusations at the other person. This is the misinterpretation that comes out from all the miscommunication that took place from the very beginning that led her to be so angry, and then she started to make all these assumptions, and now at that situation the husband was not heard. She couldn't hear anything he was saying.
Abuna, do you think that third parties affect a spouse's ideas or, interpretation of the other spouse, like over communication, not over, but communication with maybe the mother, for instance, maybe that affected the way things went, or maybe communication with other people and how they affect a spouse's relationship with their spouse?
Actually, in so many cases, we hear a story from one party and we hear the story from the other party. And to get the full picture, you cannot just listen to one party and jump to conclusions. That's misinterpretation, because you need to hear all the sides of the story. So if she heard something from her mom, no matter what was that, she could have peacefully and quietly discussed it with him, and maybe she could have told him, why didn't we discuss this together before you tell my family that we are not going to spend Christmas vacation with them. We should have discussed this first between ourselves. So, I mean, there are so many steps that were not done from the side of the husband and from the side of the wife. The husband should have, to avoid the situation he got in, he got himself into big trouble. Why? Because he did not communicate this with his wife first and discuss the issue with his wife. So the advice I would give every husband, it's not because you're considered a leader that you come up with decisions on your own. Before you decide on anything, you need to consult your wife in the big matters and in the smallest and simplest matters. There are so many things that I can say in this part. I don't think we have time, but you cannot go back home and tell your wife, you know something, I just quit today my job. No, you cannot do that. You cannot decide this on your own. Even if you're having a lot of troubles or anything, you need first to communicate this. That's from the side of the leader. That doesn't mean that he can come up with decisions on his own without consulting his wife. On the other hand, the wife needs to, if she hears something that she doesn't like, she needs to discuss it with him rationally, without getting mad and losing her temper and jumping to conclusions and misinterpreting what took place, and come up with some things that are not facts but are fiction.
Abuna, I totally agree and I understand what you're saying, Abuna. Sometimes things happen where maybe you make a decision as a man or even as a woman, as the wife, as the one spouse and another. If you make a decision, you don't weren't able to communicate it, not for any other reason, but for any circumstances that didn't allow you to. What do you do? Because you mentioned earlier the husband was more calm in his reaction versus his wife, who was, had built up anger. I totally agree that both spouses can, take preventative measures for the future. But what about when they're in the midst of this? Like, what could the husband, since he was, I guess it would be easier for him to, come up with a strategic way to deal with the situation. How can he, in this, like in the future scenario like this, how can he make it work so that it's communicated correctly and the interpretations are not happening?
I actually don't think, sorry, Bruna, if I may, I don't think the husband did anything wrong in this. I mean, aside from miscommunicating in the very beginning, but his demeanor and the way that he was speaking and communicating during the conversation, it was great. He was very nice, and he was trying to very calmly explain his reasoning, but she was very angry. And I don't think that is, I mean, I'm definitely guilty of this, but at the same time, it does not facilitate for any productive conversation.
I agree. I mean, I think, no, yeah, just because I feel like the guy here, he's coming home. He's like, hi, honey, how are you? You know, happy to see his wife. She's coming at him, AK-47, full attack. And he's just like, whoa, listen, this is not happening. And he wasn't, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe it was a little bit of miscommunication, but I feel like, all right, he's in that situation. He wants to make peace. He understands his wife has different needs. What can he do? Because he in that position is easier to be proactive in making the peace versus the wife who maybe she's always picking on him for things. You know, maybe she's like, oh, well, why didn't you do this? There's no, you know, maybe an explanation, but what can he do? What can the husband do to like be able to get the message across?
Maybe in this situation, he acted very good, very calmly, and he didn't do anything wrong. And he tried to emphasize the fact that he loves her family. I think nothing could have happened in this situation because she was angry now. It's good that he didn't lose his temper as well and shout and scream and curse and do all these things. I think what is going to happen later on, that when she calms down, then we can sit and talk again. And maybe he can start by saying, I think I had my share in causing what happened because I did not communicate this with you first. I should have done that. And if he apologizes, and you know how much I love you, and you mean everything to me, and I'm sorry that I was not that transparent with you to communicate this to you first, with you first. I think when she calms down, she's going to realize that maybe she jumped to many conclusions that were not right. She misinterpreted what he was saying, and she was going to also, if the love is there, and the love is affirmed and confirmed, she's going to be able to say, "Oh, I'm sorry that I jumped to conclusion. I must have not done that. I understand what you said," because sometimes when you're angry, you hear the words, but you don't internalize them. I think he made the case when he was discussing with her the situation. So I think afterwards, when she calms down, she's going to start to rethink what he said. If the love is there and the trust is there, and that will work out the situation. The situation ended, and this episode was a very sour note. But I think it happens in every marriage. If the two spouses are willing to work out things, especially he did not do something wrong in responding to her. He kept affirming the fact that he loves her family. That was not his intention. It's this financial situation. And he gave all the reason, explained it.
Kind of understand now what the husband could have done a little bit differently. What could the wife have done a little bit differently in this situation? Yes, we know she shouldn't have had that reaction, but is there anything more specific you can
her not being loving, her not trusting. Can we talk about that just a little bit more? Just try to, for us to understand, for those watching, like why this, what this reaction could have been coming from.
I think either loving, why she's not so loving, or why she's not feeling so loved.
Oh.
It could be either. And there are issues that are personal issues that she needs to examine herself about, like why she doesn't feel loved. She can communicate that with her husband. I don't feel loved. I don't feel I'm trusted by you, that you can discuss all these things with me before you decide something. Or she's not loving, that there are other
Yeah, what do you do
issues.
there?
Say again?
If, let's say, someone, or a guy, or a husband, it's not just for the wives out there, right? The husbands, whoever, if they feel like maybe I love my wife, my husband, but maybe that they're in denial. Like, how would they examine themselves if they feel that they are okay with loving? Like, how can this person get help? How can they truly examine themselves, as you had mentioned?
Yeah, well, they can get help. Sometimes maybe a person realizes that, oh, I might need help, like in counseling, either personal counseling or family therapy, or the father of confession sometimes can be very helpful in these situations, that he can direct her or advise her one way or another, because she can open and talk to him about the situation and how she felt. And accordingly, I mean, there are means of help that she can get through her prayer. Actually, you reminded me with what St. Anthony was saying. He said that those who open themselves to the grace of God and the work of the Holy Spirit, they get to know themselves. And when they get to know themselves, they get to know the Creator and all what He does in this cosmos. So in other words, sometimes we are not so close to the grace of God, we are not opening our lives to the work of the Holy Spirit, that we can get to know ourselves, because it's like a light, the light of God would shine on us. Let us see, helps us to see our shortcomings, our weaknesses, our defects, and get to know ourselves. And when we get to do that, that is the best thing, because when Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, if I feel that I'm hating people around me, this is how I'm with myself. I'm unable to love myself, so I'm unable to love others. So here comes the soul searching and the work of the Spirit of God within us, the grace of God that can enlighten our minds and our hearts and change the way we see ourselves and get to know the reality about ourselves. Through much praying, through much reading God's Word, through spiritual direction, all these are means that helps us to be able to get to know ourselves better. And if we get to do that, that will help not only the wife, the husband, everyone in any kind of relationship.
So just to summarize, we learned a lot. Thanks again, Abuna, for this great discussion on misinterpretation and interpreting misinterpretation. There's lots to learn about what the husband should do in taking proactive measures to making peace, and the wife. There's a whole lot there for the wife to figure out. but also, examining herself, and the husband the same, knowing themselves, and to truly know themselves, as Abuna had mentioned, to open ourselves to and laying our lives down for our spouse. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being my wife, and thank you, honey, and Abuna. Can't thank you enough. We'll catch you on the next episode of CYC for Couples Only.